Welcome to the Black College Sports and Education Foundation weekly podcast, where we equip students, athletes, their families, and supporters with vital tools and information that will impact their decisions on educational opportunities and careers. Tune in every Thursday night at 7 Eastern Standard Time as we host prominent guests from a variety of backgrounds, such as education, sports, medicine, and the corporate world. Remember, the Black College Sports and Education Foundation is your one-stop resource center. Now here's your host, Gil McGregor.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Black College Sports and Education Foundation's podcast. I'm your host this evening. My name is Gil McGregor. I'm a black college basketball player, but I didn't attend an HBCU university. But I'm still excited and very happy this evening to have as my guest an icon of basketball, icon of college basketball, an icon of professional basketball who attended the HBCU College of Grambling University. Ladies and gentlemen, please let me present to you the captain, Willis Reed. Willis, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you very much, Gil. Happy to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. You know, everybody calls you captain. And for one time, I can say we're on the same team. I got to play with you. And I guess as we talk about our podcast, Willis, things that we want to highlight have to do certainly with sports and accomplishments there. But education becomes a real main part of what we want to expose. And you being a player at Grambling, and being an All-American at Grambling, and being a champion at Grambling, reflect a little bit of what it was like when you decided to leave your hometown to go to Grambling University.
Well, it wasn't that hard a decision. It was kind of an easy decision, and it wasn't a decision that I was going to have to leave and go a long way from home. I was actually only about 26 miles from my home going to Grambling, so it wasn't bad. So that was probably the best part of it, being an only child. So it made it a lot easier for me. And I was going to some place that I was familiar, having watched Grambling Tigers play basketball and watched some of the guys that had been there ahead of me. And I was actually a fan of the university basketball and the football program.
Who was your coach in high school? And did he lean you that way, or did they come and recruit you to get you that Grambling was going to be your school, or how was that decision made, Willis?
Well, really, my high school coach was the gentleman by the name of Lyndon Stone. Coach Stone really was a Southern University graduate, and even though his home was actually in Minden, which is not that far away from except here in North Louisiana, on the I-20 corridor, but by the time going and watching them play, and also remembering as a kid, there was a guy who I see going up and down the road. I see him in Bernice and different places on 167, which is the road that goes from Ruston all the way, and then which is 5 miles from Grambling. Grambling is 5 miles from 167, and it goes right through Bernice. It was a guy by the name of Howard Willis, but nobody called him Howard Willis in those days. Jim Dander was his nickname.
Jim Dander.
And Howard Willis was his original name, but most people called him Junction City Slim. I mean, he's from a little town that was 15 miles north of Bernice. And how did he get home and back to school? Always, I was seeing Thurman. I don't know whether he was going north or south. But you were always seeing Thurman, you know, and they said, oh, that's Junction City Slim. And I came to Grambling and I saw him play at coming to games, and I got to be a fan of his. So I really had a lot of interest in coming to Grambling. So my high school coach told me, he said, listen, I know I would like for you to go to Southern, being my alma mater and all that. He said, but you're going to have to spend 4 years of your life there, and you got to be happy. So that's a decision that you're going to have to make. Well, he knew that Grambling was going to be that place. And looking back now, over the years, I can say that was a great decision on my part.
No, we talk about when you choose a school, and I think that's the one recruiting story Willis say nobody is going to be able to tell other than you. I saw a guy thumbing, and that's how I ended up at the school. Recruiting's gotten a lot different since then.
Yeah,
a little bit about your life at Grambling. Once you made that decision and you weeded out all others, or at least you weeded out Southern, and when you got on that campus, we talk about you now being capped, and we talk about what Willis Reed means now as a name and what it means to basketball. But what was it like those early days for Willis Reed on the campus of Grambling?
Well, you got to get used to some things, and not having, been away from home that much. You had to make sure you got teamed up with the right people. Matter of fact, just show you how your friendships end up being was that I guess I must have been 10th grade. My friend Monroe Pitts and I, we skipped school and we gone down to Ruston to Grambling. Grambling is 5 miles from Ruston. And then we were at the bus station because we know we had to get back home, so our parents didn't know we had slipped off and skipped school and went down to Lincoln High, which is in Ruston. Just kind of hanging out, looking at the girls. Monroe was, I guess I was 10th grade, and he was 11th grade. Anyway, we were at the bus station, and Coach Hobby was at the bus station, and he was waiting for a recruit to come in. And the bus that he came in on was the bus that we were going to have to take from there and to Bernice that was going to go home to Arkansas. But anyway, Coach Hobby introduced me because he don't know who I am. He said, "Who are you?" Tall guy like that. And he was holding, sessions of everybody knew who he was and stuff. And I said, told him I was Willis Reed, I was from Bernice and all that. So he said, well, when you graduate, I think I'm 10th grade and Monroe is 11th grade. It was almost the end of that year because Charlie Harden was coming in as a recruit. And he said, you come to Grambling, I'll give you a scholarship, kind of like that. And, 10th grade year came through, finished up the 11th grade year. Then, we had a pretty good basketball team. Monroe was a senior and I was a junior. And we actually had to play in the pregame at Grambling. But Hardnett was coming in and Coach Hardnett said, come on, big, let me introduce you to somebody. This is Charlie Hardnett. He was from Atlanta, Georgia. So I got a chance to see Charlie play 2 years at Grambling before I became a player at Grambling. So I already knew him. And that was kind of a great thing. So when I went to Grambling, he was kind of like my mentor, the guy who I wanted to be like. He was really a good basketball player. And because he got drafted in the NBA and he played some NBA ball. So, my passion to go to Grambling was kind of growing because at that fact, and I remember that they had two great guards at Grambling. Hooper and Jerry Barr was two guys with a starting backcourt at Grambling. They were really good guards. So it got to be my favorite team. And they played a fast running style of basketball, which was similar to what I was watching on the NBA basketball because, as I kind of started to get into basketball, well, my favorite team was the Boston Celtics, okay?
Okay.
Why was I a Boston Celtics fan? Well, Bill Russell, who was their star center at the time, was a guy, he was left-handed like I was, and he was born in Monroe, Louisiana, and had moved to Oakland, California, I think when he was around 12. And eventually he went to University of San Francisco, then eventually he came with Boston Celtics. And so you got a chance to watch them on Saturday afternoon on the black and white TV. And, he was my favorite because he was left-handed like I was, and country boy, grew up, spent part of his life. He was 12 in Monroe, Louisiana. So I had somebody that I could idolize, and they were a good basketball team. That had Cousy, Sherman, Heinsohn, and the two Jones, and KC on the team. So, that was my favorite basketball team.
Well, that's a great story because I'm sure there may be some listening that don't even know that Russell was from Louisiana. Now, which makes me why did you end up choosing number 19? That's kind of an odd number for a uniform, don't you think? Well, you know what? A friend of mine asked me once, he said, so you had number 22 on, but basically you wore number 19 all these years. I said, well, the real story about that, well, I played,
for the Olympic trial team. It didn't make the team. Jim Bad News Barnes played. He made the team. And when the draft came around, Jim became the #1 pick for the Knicks, and I ended up being the second pick for the Knicks. So when I came to New York to visit, and they kind of asked me what number did I want, I said I want 22. And the reason I wanted 22, I had worn 22. Well, my first number was number 8. And then when we changed and went to West Side High School, which was the big school that I ended up graduating from, well, big with me, a single A school, but it was a new school. I wore number 22, and that was kind of, 22 was because of Elgin Baylor.
Okay.
I thought he was a great player, and I liked his number and all that. Then when I went to college, I couldn't wear 22. I think they were, by the rules they had to be in the 50s as you play center. So I wore 50 and 51 for road games and 50 at home. But anyway, that's how I got 22. So I took the pictures, and then when Bad News, they had gone to, the Olympics, and they came back from the Olympics and all, and he signed, and he wanted number 22.
He took your number.
And so, well, I ended up with number 19. So that's how I ended up wearing number 19.
You more than justified 19, but just like that, huh? That's nothing that you had chosen all your life to wear.
Oh, I had it all planned out. Well, I like 22, like Elgin Baylor, knowing I was never going to be as smooth as he was, but I like 22.
When I'm talking about that, Willis, when you talk about thinking of saying you'd never be as smooth as he was, how early in your career at Grambling did it start to cross your mind that you had that opportunity to go on to the next level and maybe not become the iconic player that you are, but when you saw that in your future, how soon and who helped point you to that direction saying, young man, you got a chance at this?
Well, I had to be realistic about what life was all about. At that time, I don't think they had but 8, 9 teams in the NBA. My real goal when I came to college, after I got a scholarship to come to Grambling, was to graduate and become a high school teacher and a coach, because I knew I would have a good job. I had worked, matter of fact, as a kid growing up, I had picked cotton. I remember the most cotton I ever picked was 210 pounds. My mother, I used to go pick cotton with her. I mean, she could pick 300 pounds, So, and then after I got a little older, stronger, I didn't pick cotton as much then. I used to haul hay. And I used to only get paid 50 cents an hour. That got to be a better way of life now. So when I went to Grambling, I graduated in June, and I went right away and started school, summer school. I started in summer.
Okay.
And I spent the next couple of summers going to school too. One summer I couldn't go because, I planned on those different kinds of teams, the Pan American games and all that. But I mean, I was trying to stack all the hours. My goal was that I'm going to march. I'm going to be the last guy in the line in 1964 when my class graduated. And that's what I was. That was the most important thing for me, was to make sure that I graduated.
Well, it's just amazing that you had that kind of an educational focus. And I'm sure when people think about you and the greatness that you put on the basketball court, they would not have envisioned that your thought process at a young age was to have the education in place.
Well, let me say this. Having worked for 50 cents an hour, having picked cotton, having hauled hay for 50 cents an hour, I really appreciated and seeing what kind of work my dad did. I think my dad got paid a little bit more than 50 cents when I was working for them. Because he had a different job. He used to drive a truck and drive some of the machinery and stuff. But I knew that, I was going to have to do something else. And quite frankly, the person that I emulated was my high school coach, Coach Lyndon Stone. I wanted to be like him and Mr. Claude Sims, who ran the shop, who taught us shop and, agriculture stuff. So, I had some people that I emulated alike. And they were living a lot better than my mom and dad was living. I had some role models. I was realistic about, because the NBA was nowhere as big as it is now, and the money wasn't, what it is now. And you didn't know how, if you would make it, you get drafted, how long you were going to play and all that. I had some ideas about my future by the time I got through college, but you still didn't know whether that you're going to be able to stay there and how long you were going to be able to play. So there were a lot of unknowns that you knew that you had to try to, make sure that you could handle it. And that was making sure you graduated and had a degree so that you could get a teaching job. That was probably one of the best professions you could have as a kid, like I was growing up in a little town like Bernice.
Well, it's still a great profession. And we talked a little bit about the great profession that you were. And I just remember seeing the film of you coming out of the locker room. And we're talking now, we're in the NBA finals time of year again. And you coming out of the locker room and you going up against the great Wilt Chamberlain. And you dragging one leg, and here comes the captain. And in Madison Square Garden, the mecca of basketball, without any doubt, back in those days, and how the crowd goes wild because here comes Willis. But some people like to talk about Game 6, not what you did to end it, but what got you there. And your recollection of that championship playoff and your role and your impact on that series.
Okay, well, going through the whole series, we thought we could beat the Lakers. I knew that I was going to have help. We would have to do a lot of double teaming of Wilt and stuff, and then we still had to worry about Jerry West.
Yeah, they had a pretty good team, didn't they?
No doubt about it. But we felt like we were up for the task. But, the one thing that I knew that I was going to have a lot of help to play against Wilt. And I had a lot of respect for Wilt, too. Matter of fact, we used to walk out to the half court, for the jump ball, I shake hands and say, "Good evening, Mr. Chamberlain." And I used to do the same thing when I used to play against Bill Russell. The same thing, "Good evening, Mr. Russell." A lot of that had been already kind of played out a little bit. For example, we got beat in the Eastern Division for the Eastern Division title in 1969. That was Bill Russell's last year. And it was a Sunday afternoon in Boston. And and we all said, we're going to win this next year. There ain't no way, because we knew that Russell was going to retire, and we knew that Sam Jones was going to retire. So there ain't no way those guys are going to beat us next year. We're going to be the best team in the East, And we left going home that summer, and summer looked like it was very short. Here we were back playing basketball. We won 18 in a row in one stretch. Things were good. We had made a trade to get Dave DeWorcher, and also Comaz was traded.
Ernie Comaz.
Things had changed on our team, so we made it, and we knew that we were going to have a good team. Walt Clyde became our starting point guard, and Barnett was our two guard, and DeWorcher was our power forward now, which was just not played originally when Bellamy was there. And DeWorcher was better, because he could handle the ball and he could shoot the 3-pointers and stuff. And he was a tough guy. And, Bill was coming along, he and Cassie, they dueling for what they were going to do on the team. And I think both of them did different things and did them well. And that was part of that. So, we were there. We were starting to smell our must a little bit.
Okay.
We kind of felt like we were there. But it was a growing process. And I think a lot of it happened, too, because of Red Hosman, who really, he was the first guy I met as a scout when he came to scout me in Grambling. As a matter of fact, Coach Hobby introduced me to him. He said, "I want to introduce you to this is Red Hosman. He's the chief scout for the New York Knicks." And I remember Red wearing a gray suit, and had a gray stripe, and had a London Fall trench coat over his arm and a cigar in his hand. But a really nice guy. And I think that the one thing that, he wasn't the coach originally when I was there. But by the time Eddie was the coach, then Harry Gallatin was our coach, and then Dickie McGuire was our coach, and then Holtzman became our coach. And he had scouted all of us. So he kind of knew our personalities probably a little better and what the potential of where we were going to go and be as we got older. And originally, Mr. Irish, who was the president of the Knicks at the time, I remember as they said, he told Mr. Harris he wanted him to be the coach, and he said, "Mr. Harris, I don't want to be the coach." He said, "Well, you want a job, don't you?" He said, "Yeah, well, you're the coach." You know, so I mean, he did a heck of a job. I mean, he came in, he was very disciplined, you know, and I think that's what we needed, a little more discipline. I mean, you know, he wasn't beat you across the head discipline kind of guy. He just to tell guys, hey, this is the way it's going to be. This is what it's going to be. He spent a lot of time on defense. He spent a lot of time working on defense.
Willis, when they talk about your team, the thing that people hear more contextual about the team is the IQ, the basketball IQ, the intelligence of that New York Knicks team. Is that overblown? Because the reason I asked it like that, because you're the captain. That started with you, and that intelligence came with you from Grambling. Yeah. It came from an HBCU, a little school.
I don't know. Let me say, I don't know how much basketball intelligence is. The only thing I knew is that when we played to win. You know, and we went to work. I mean, that's all I was getting. You know, and my thing about it is when you got guys that have certain kind of skills, you let them exemplify those skills. And I think that's the one thing I learned from Coach Hobbs. I mean, my thing was, if that ball was on the strong side of the floor and you're on the weak side of the floor, you know 9 times out of 10 that ball was going to get back over to the weak side of the floor. So the first thing you do is when they getting that thing over, whatever they're going to do on that side with the ball, that player with the ball and whoever he's working with, the ball's going to get shot from there. So you need to go be an offensive rebound.
Okay.
So certain things you analyze, how can I be important to the team as a guy who don't have the ball? Well, one of the best things you can do when the ball is shot, you go and you try to offensive rebound the ball, you know, and those are things that I learned that really helped me out through my career. And even now, I watch games and I see how a lot of times at the pro level, college level, all that the weak side, a lot of times, those guys over there, once the ball gets shot, they don't do anything. But, you know, that's all part of the situation now where everybody's spaced all the guys out behind the three-point lines. Okay, so that means that they kind of don't go and rebound the ball. The one thing I admired about Rodman is that, you know what? He could play with anybody. You shoot it, he's going to go get it, you know. So he was a great offensive rebounder. And I think those were some of the things that made us a good team because we learned how to do some of those things. And like I said, most of our guys could shoot. I mean, I didn't think any given night, we always didn't know who was going to be the leading scorer. But there were certain teams that our forwards would always beat that team. And then there were certain teams where our guards would always beat that team. You know, you had an idea how the game's going to go before you even play it because we could overpower certain players. You know, nobody was going to make our guys look bad because we all going to play defense.
Well, now, what about today's NBA, Willis? When you look at today's NBA, a couple of things. Do you see guys playing that you say could have played for the Knicks or could have played during your era? Because when you go to barbershops, I do. That's all I hear. Well, so-and-so couldn't have played back then, or so-and-so, they held him. He wouldn't be the player. What do you see when you look at today's NBA and who you see playing and what you think of some of them?
Well, I think the game has changed a lot. I think the three-point line has changed the game. So we are looking at a different way the game is played. You know, like for an example, you know, some of those guys, as many as 3 pointers they shoot. Well, I mean, that's the way they play the game. But I think if I was going to play there during the day, I mean, I would be like a Rodman, a hell of an offensive rebounder. Because, I mean, I'll be going in there off the weak side, and whenever that ball's not on my side, when that ball gets shot, I'm not staying behind that line. I'm going in there trying to rebound the ball. You know, I have to give you one story about this. You know, this one kid kept shooting the ball, and, you know, every time he got it, he was shooting a long shot. And so Coach came over and said, "Why are you shooting all those shots?" He said, "Well, Coach," he said, "I was open." Coach said, "Yeah, but there's a reason you open. They want you to shoot it."
You open because you can't shoot. That's
like, you're not going to make.
Get a hit. Get a hit.
Yeah, that's the reason you open.
Willis, what about the attitude? And I'm not saying attitude as some people say it negatively, but what about the mentality of competition? Do you sense that the mentality of competition today is the same mentality of competition years ago when you played?
Well, you know, let me put it this way. I think social media, as much coverage we get on games, period, now, I think all that has changed. If you think about it, once upon a time, the NBA was only 9 teams. And how much TV coverage you got? We didn't get. Every team in the NBA now have great home TV, local TV. So all the games in all the major cities, that games are televised at home and away. Players are much more famous than we probably were in our day. With social media, that has always added another mix to the whole situation. I mean, I catch myself sometimes walking around with my phone in my hand. I can't go out of the house without my phone, Gil may call me.
Yes, indeed. I appreciate it.
So I think all of that has changed. But, I think the philosophy of the game is, I don't have any problem with it. I just know that teams that are going to win consistently are going to be teams that have a combination of a good strategy and how they're going to play. I mean, they know who's going to be generally their best scorers, and they're going to let them do the scoring, and they're going to defend, and they're going to play together. And, they're not going to give up easy shots. Sometimes I see things just kind of blow my mind. Players get their minds so fixed on that. I got to guard this guy that I've seen Green, for an example, with Golden State.
Draymond.
Get the defensive rebound and dribble the length of the floor and lay the ball up on the other end. Or make a great pass so somebody shoot a three, Curry in the corners. So, some of the philosophy, some of the players haven't learned. They don't understand. The teams that are going to play good defense generally are going to be the teams that are probably going to win.
Willis, I tell you what, this has been one wonderful time that I spent with you. And the fact that you are that iconic person that you are, but you've always had a chance to come and say hi to Gil McGregor, like I played on the court alongside of you as long as you did. And just any word of wisdom or advice to young men who are maybe places like Rayford, North Carolina, my hometown, or Bernice, Louisiana, like your hometown, as they're going through high school and looking towards an opportunity to be something in the world, whether it's a pro basketball player, which probably won't happen, not like you, Hall of Famer, Olympian, all that kind of stuff, but being just a productive human being, something that you can say to these young men so that they'll look forward to having an opportunity to be successful.
Well, the one thing I got to say to them, that basketball will only be a part of your life so long. I mean, some careers going to be over when they finish high school. Some's going to be over when they finish college. And some going to maybe go on to play pro, and that's going to only be maybe 10 to 15 years, and it's not going to be for so many of you. But you got to plan on having a future. Go to college, major in something that you want to do, be, and understand that that's something that you're going to do the rest of your life, and be happy with that. You got to prepare no matter where you are. What are you doing? I know some people, kids who played and left in high school, played in college. After that, they leave their hometown and they go other places to live and never come back. Well, I like this part of the country. I mean, Grambling is a good place to be. I live basically in Ruston, but I'm closer to Grambling than I am Ruston, and it's 5 miles, which is nothing in comparison. So I'm in a very good environment. Why? Because there's Louisiana Tech here, and there's Grambling. Those are good colleges and great places. I got Carl Malone, went to Louisiana Tech, P.J. Brown, and his wife, Dee Brown. It's a good place. I think you got to find out and think about what you want to do at the end, the rest of your life. And I always tell people, if you do something that you really love and like to do, it won't be work. It'll be fun, and you'll have a useful and an enjoyable life. That's what you got to do. You got to realize that the only thing you're going to get out of life depends on how much you put into it. And you got to invest in your life. And like I said, I didn't know I was going to play pro basketball, but I knew if I got a scholarship, I got 4 years to go to college free. At least I can get through that. Then I better make sure I have something I can do well enough that I can get a job after that. Most important thing, I remember Mrs. Robinson asked me, and student teaching, she said, Mr. Reed, what are your plans once you graduate? I said, well, Ms. Robinson, I'm hoping to be able to go play professional basketball for a few years. I said, why do you ask? She said, well, there's been 3 schools have called and they want you to come be a coach and a teacher at their school. I said, well, I hope that won't happen for a few years, and it didn't. But I mean, I didn't know. You never know. I mean, I've been a very fortunate guy because even though I ended up having some injuries, for the first 7 years of my career, I did not have any in the pros. And that's what you got to be thankful for. But, Will, you got to give it all you got, guys. That's all,
Well, I tell you what, I hope that you will agree to come back on because what people probably don't know about Willis Reed that I do know is you're being a hunter and you've been an outdoorsman and how much you like that. So you think you might at another day come back and be on our podcast and talk about that sportsman Willis Reed that people don't necessarily know about?
Oh, I'd be glad to come back. Do you and I have to negotiate?
No, we good. Willis Reed, Cap, my friend, thank you so very much, and we hope to have you again back on. People who want to give us how you felt about this podcast, participate, we tell you can contact us at HBCU #4 Life. The great captain, Willis Reed of the New York Knicks of Grambling University of Bernice, Louisiana. Thank you, Willis.
Thank you, Gil. I enjoy every moment of it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to Black College Sports and Education Foundation. Today we had the great Willis Reed of Grambling University and of the New York Knicks as our guest. He was fun, and he gave a lot of great advice for young people listening. And we hope you will join us again. We're going to have more interesting guests. We're going to have more interesting conversation. And all we're going to need is you. Take care. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for tuning in to the podcast. For more information about us, please visit our website at www.bcsportsfoundation.com. Also, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at HBCU4Life. That's HBCU, 4, Life. To be a potential guest on our podcast, contact Ed J. Hayes at ed.j.hayes@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another amazing show.